What is going on? Welcome back. Episode 29, 3rd and 20 podcast. My name is Frank Entwistle. We got the co-host, the main man himself, Ryan Steed. What's going on today, Ryan? How you doing?
Pretty good. Early in the morning, ready to get it rolling.
Yeah, recording this one in the morning rather than at night. Holiday season. Merry Christmas to everyone and happy holidays to everyone that doesn't celebrate Christmas. But with that being said, let's get the show on the road. We're going to start off new segment. It's called Take the Floor. You know, each of us, we're going to give ourselves like 2 to 5 minutes. Just talk about whatever. Steve, you want to take this? You want me to lead off?
You go ahead and take it. You got it.
All right. So my Take the Floor this week is going to be the Jets. The Jets actually managed to win against the Rams, but at what cost? At what cost? Honestly, like, you talk about one of the worst wins in NFL history. This has to be up there. Because, yes, and I feel great for the players. The players, they did a fantastic job. Adam Gase finally showed that he was able to outcoach someone. But at this point in the season, with nothing left, was it really worth it? Because there is a really good chance they just missed out on the best quarterback prospect possibly ever since John Elway. I think he's even triumphed over Andrew Luck. And at this point, you have just turned we did the coaching segment last week. A top 3 head coaching landing spot. A place where, you know, you finally had some pieces that a head coach would really love to turn this thing around. And you just threw that all out the window. For what cost? And I've always been a guy that is never advocating for a team to tank until now. The Jets, you fucked up. You blew the tank. You blew the one job you had to get yourself in a position to really turn this thing around. Not that the job is impossible, but by winning that football game, you just fucked yourself over in 8 different ways. Not only because you lost out on Trevor Lawrence, not only because you not ruined, but really hurt your chances of landing one of the top head coaches in the league. You also won against like the one team who you have your first round pick of as well, who you now get put in a great position to get a home playoff game and get farther in the playoffs. So congratulations, New York Jets. You got your win. You are not defeated. You don't join the club of 0-16 football teams. But you may have just screwed yourself for years to come. Congratulations, Jets. I hope it was worth it.
Yeah, the win really makes no sense to me. Like, you're right. They you kind of threw yourselves out of the running for Trevor Lawrence, and now it kind of looks like now you're kind of stuck with Darnold, which is not bad per se because we talked about him before and he has amazing talent. But, you know, what do you do if you get that second overall pick? Because I don't think you take Justin Fields. I mean, I don't think you settle for him when you have Darnold. So then that gives you, do you take the best O-lineman in the draft or do you just trade the pick and try to get more draft picks, you know? The question there.
Yeah, now you, as Joe Douglas, the general manager, now you got a lot of thinking to do because you had an easy pick and you just turned an easy draft situation into probably one of the tougher questions and tougher jobs for a general manager to navigate because it's opened up the door to keep Sam Darnold. It's opened up the door to still draft a guy like a Justin Fields, a Kyle Trask, a Zach Wilson, maybe even a Trey Lance. But you had it. You had it in the bag. You were doing so good. You were doing a phenomenal job. And I'm not going to say, because I'm always a team that's anti-tank. For the most part, until now, I've always been anti-tank. But, man, you had one job. You had one job. And it's also crazy the fact that a team that's going to probably go 1-15 doesn't end up with the first overall pick. I'm pretty sure the first time this has happened is since 1969, and then it was decided by a coin flip. Second part of Take the Floor. These tiebreakers, specifically for the number one pick between bottom teams, should be decided by a coin flip. That is good television.
That would be electric, like they could broadcast the coin flip and everything, you could bet on it. I mean, it'd be 50-50, but it'd be pretty, and somehow the Jets would lose that, they'd lose the coin flip too. Like Gase would go tails because he'd be like a tails never fails kind of guy, but it would go heads,
Nah, Gase would definitely go heads.
Nah, dude.
You want to know why Gase would go heads? Because he has, I don't know why. I was going to say he has an ego. I think he does have a little bit of an ego, but he would definitely go heads. Gase is 100% a heads kind of guy.
True, probably. I mean, I'm a heads guy too, so I don't know. I just think whatever Gase does, I would do the complete opposite, and that's why he would go tails. But who knows? Maybe truly deep down, I'm an Adam Gase.
This just in: Steed is an Adam Gase. All right, Steed, let's get into your Take the Floor this week.
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about this insane play from Matthew Stafford, as we are about to see. Is his everybody's been talking about it this past week. Is this? I mean, they still got their ass beat, but like this no-look pass from Matthew Stafford right here. I think this was better than any no-look pass that Patrick Mahomes has ever done. I mean, dude, this is just wild. Slings it over the middle, the Marvin Jones tutty. I mean, this is the kind of plays that Matthew Stafford brings to a daily basis. But he just doesn't get any national highlight because the Lions suck. This franchise is terrible, and they've done him dirty. And we talked about it on podcasts in the past. But, whether it's been like they haven't had the defense, they haven't had weapons around them, Calvin Johnson going down, they haven't had a running game. And it's just crazy to see, like, a quarterback with his caliber, taking number one overall, and he's been with this franchise, and he's produced as a number one overall pick, and yet they still had minimal winning success because the franchise dog shit. And if you put him on many other teams, like a 49ers, pretty much any other team besides the Lions, Jets, or those bottom feeder teams, then they're competing year in, year out for a playoff and possibly a Super Bowl run. And I truly think for Matthew Stafford, I would want to get out of Detroit. I know he might be loyal there and all that, but it is time. You're in the back end of your career and you need to win. And there's teams out there that need a quarterback that are like you. And I don't know if you're going to get a quarterback that's – if you're ready to win now, you should be wanting to buy Matthew Stafford because at the end of the day, he's going to be able to make plays like this. And even though he's not insanely consistent, he puts up great numbers and would put up even better numbers in a better system, better franchise. So it's just been a truly loss on his first half and his whole career up to this point, playing for this dog crap of a franchise. I mean, if I'm a fan, I'm literally like praising Matthew Stafford, and if Matthew Stafford, you only get one career. You get one career, and the Lions really screwed you out of having a top, caliber quarterback kind of career the way everything has gone down.
It truly is a shame, especially because I want to compare him real quick to someone like Matt Ryan. And, you look at Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford, I think a lot of people think are similar quarterbacks. They're both very talented. But as a Falcons fan, I think even you could admit that Matthew Stafford is a completely different level of talent than Matt Ryan is. Yet Matt Ryan was able to at least reach a Super Bowl. And no one's coming out here arguing that the Falcons are the best organization out here. The fact that Matthew Stafford has had zero playoff success And the
playoffs
Lions have
twice.
never even really been at the top of that division during his entire career. It truly is a shame. And Matthew Stafford's not the perfect quarterback. He makes mistakes. He's had some interception issues. He's somewhat inconsistent, but inconsistent for what? A top 5 quarterback? So I think you're right. That was just one of the many nuggets that you have in Matthew Stafford's career. And I truly hope that he's able to find his way onto a better football team, because he still has some time left to etch his name into a Super Bowl, to etch his name into a truly contending playoff team. But I think that he's stuck, because if I'm a GM, if I'm a head coach of the Lions and I come in, I'm not getting rid of Matthew Stafford. I think he's just too good. But let's just hope for his sake that he's able to leave.
Yeah, it's just depending where they pick too. Like if a team is whoever comes in next, a new GM or something, they might want to just like rebuild the ship and start over and try to sell Matthew Stafford. It's just, you have to get rid of his contract and all that dead cap and stuff. And then it comes down to the money thing, and I'm not really too sure how that would be ran. But if they're able to, they should do it for both sides, and plus, like, graces out of Matthew Stafford. It's just, like a team like the Bears or 49ers that really need a quarterback, and I'm sure, like, their money situation is not the best, but they could be able to fix it. They really would benefit from having a quarterback like Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, it's just, if you're the Lions, you need a whole lot more than a quarterback to become a good football team. You need a roster and you need a culture. But
yeah,
with that being said, let's move into the film analysis for this episode. And the film analysis for this episode, I thought was going to be a lot more interesting, I should say, than it actually was. I don't know if that's necessarily the right word. But it's the Browns offense. And I'll tell you what, the first thing that just jumps off of the film when you're looking at the Browns offense is just the simple fact that everything has improved. There is not a position group on that Browns offense that is not playing better than the beginning of the season. That's just a fact. And let's just start off with, I think, the group that has improved the most, and that is the tight end play for this football team. This team has 3 tight ends that could probably start, and if not start, play on every single team in the NFL. My Steelers could probably use one of these Browns tight ends right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's truly insane. Jarvis Landry, alongside of the other receivers, has stepped up and become that receiver that they paid him to be once again. During the beginning of the season, we saw some uncharacteristic drops from a player that is one of the more sure-handed receivers, at least I thought, coming into the season.
Yeah.
Now you got guys like Rashard Higgins stepping up, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and they're making plays. The O-line, they have a great group of offensive linemen. And I think one of the better guys for them to step up this year has been Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller, the first game against the Ravens, he struggled a little bit, especially run blocking. But after that, the guy's been lights out. Jedrick Wills, their rookie tackle, looks unbelievable as a rookie left tackle in the National Football League. And the rest of their group has just been playing really, really well. And the second thing I want to get into with the Browns is Kevin Stefanski. I'll give you credit, Steed. I'll give you a ton of credit. You really like this Kevin Stefanski hire. You thought coming into the season, this Browns really had playoff chances and were a playoff group. And you were right. Even after week 1, you didn't give up on this team. You didn't give up on Baker Mayfield. And you were still harping. It's just week 1. Let's just let these Browns figure it out. Kevin Stefanski's going to figure it out. And he definitely figured it out. And one of the things that the Browns do that I just love is their formations and personnel usage. I think that Kevin Stefanski right now is using formations and personnel groupings better, if not the best, of any coach in the league right now, especially with how he uses these tight ends and his running backs, the real meat of this football team. So what I saw on film a lot is that the Browns come in with a lot of 3 tight end sets, right? They have, to the right of the screen here, they have 3 tight ends. And when you see that coming off the sideline, right, you see, okay, we have 3 tight ends coming into the game, a big receiver in Donovan Peoples-Jones and Nick Chubb. It screams run, right? And they line up with this just 9 guys on the line of scrimmage, right? But they do a ton of this, motioning it out tight ends. And now all of a sudden, when you're a defense, this is like 3-by-1 set. And every single one of these tight ends, Hooper, Njoku, Harrison Bryant, are all pretty damn good receivers. You know, all these guys are pretty good at catching the football, with an all-pro caliber running back with Nick Chubb and a big-ass receiver in Donovan Peoples-Jones. And it's just creating these binds for defenses that is just annoying to guard, because you have a giant group of guys out there. You can run the ball with Nick Chubb. I mean, you could run the ball without having giant-ass tight ends. You know, you could replace these guys with receivers. But what they're doing is just not letting teams get away with playing more defensive backs, which is really popular in the NFL right now. They're kind of zagging while everyone's zigging. Everyone's going, oh, let's get more receivers on the field. Let's get receiving tight ends. Let's get pass-catching running backs, fast running backs. Browns, they're combining old school football with these new school principles, where they're saying, hey, we'll go with the receiving tight ends, but every single one of our damn tight ends is a great blocker. Every one of these guys can catch the football. And we have great running backs that are extremely versatile, and we can pound the rock. And we throw a 6'4" receiver on the other side as well. And it just is opening up so many doors for this offense. So right now, they motion these guys out. You have no idea as a defense what they're doing. Okay, they run the ball with Nick Chubb here. But let's go later in the drive. Same thing. 3 tight ends here on the left side. All-pro running back in Nick Chubb and Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6'4" receiver. I'm pretty sure he's 6'4".
He's big.
And they're really utilizing this motion and changing these formations to keep defenses on their heels. If you're going by the personnel groupings, when you see these guys run onto the field, you would not guess that from this personnel grouping, these 3 tight ends, a big receiver, Nick Chubb, they don't have Jarvis Landry on the field. They don't have Rashard Higgins on the field. 2 guys that you can argue are their best receivers. Not even Kareem Hunt, who is a better receiving back than Nick Chubb. And then they go 5 wide. As a defense, you're just always on your heels. You have no idea what this Browns offense is going to do with the football. And you have to prepare for everything. They could line up with a bunch of receivers and then run the ball. They can line up with a bunch of tight ends and blocking receivers and throw the football. What do you do as a defense? And right here, not only is it tough to guard and tough to plan for, when you do all these motions and changing formations, especially with these bigger personnel, it gives away what the defense is doing. Right here you can see split safeties. Baker knows that he's going to have some space in the middle of the field. He's able to just pick and choose what side he wants to go to pre-snap, and he hits Donovan Peoples-Jones on a wide-open slant that was unfortunately dropped. It would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, walk in.
And the Browns have just been doing this to everyone, and it's working. They are lighting up the scoreboard week in and week out. They put up over 40 points against the Titans, who don't necessarily have the best defense, but putting up 40 points against any defense is a tremendous, tremendous offensive day. They put up over 40 points against the Ravens. You know, they've been absolutely lighting up the scoreboard with an offense that when they lost Odell Beckham, everyone was expecting to be completely crap to be completely honest. Everyone was calling Baker Mayfield a bust, saying that this team can only run the football. But they are doing way more than just running the football. And it really starts with Stefanski and his plan of attacking defenses and keeping them on their heels. And it's giving Baker a platform to succeed. It's giving him a clear plan to succeed as a quarterback. Not only are they lighting up the scoreboard, this team is much better on third down. They are great with turnovers. They are winning the turnover battle. Baker Mayfield is not throwing interceptions. And it's just truly unbelievable what Stefanski has done compared to what they were doing week one.
Yeah. Quick little stat on their third down success this year. They're hitting at 45% for the whole year. That's up from 36% last year under Freddie Kitchens. But their last 3 games are hitting at the league's best at 58.5%. And, and especially last week against the Giants, too, they were at 69%. So this team, if they're in any kind of third down spot, I mean, more than likely they're going to convert that because they're doing it at such crazy numbers. I mean, you look at the 3 teams with like the best third down conversions in the last month. It goes Browns, Buffalo, and Baltimore, and that's the 3 hottest teams in the league, in my opinion.
It's winning football. How do you win football games? You score in the red zone. Browns have been scoring a whole lot of red zone possessions. You convert on third down and keep your offense on the field. They've been doing it as the league's best the past 4 weeks. And you don't turn the ball over. Baker Mayfield has barely thrown interceptions in the past month and a half. 2 months, actually.
Yeah,
this is winning football, guys. You don't have to be Patrick Mahomes to do this kind of stuff. Good coaching, good confidence, good running attack, and an effective use of formations and personnel will get the job done.
Yeah, and also just Baker in a clean pocket is putting up tremendous numbers. He has 22 touchdowns, only 4 picks on the year, and posting a QBR rating of 114.1. Versus when he's under pressure, he's only throwing a touchdown, 4 picks, and his QBR is at a 37.9.
And that's exactly why Stefanski has been able to transform Baker. He's giving Baker a clear platform to succeed. Yes, Baker's gotten better. We're actually going to get into that now. But they're not asking Baker Mayfield to carry the team. They're not asking Baker Mayfield, hey, if you're not Patrick Mahomes, we're not going to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They are just asking him to be Baker Mayfield. Make the throws you need to make, get your confidence up, and just not turn the ball over, convert on third down, just all this stuff that points to winning football. He doesn't need to throw for 400 yards to win games unless that second Ravens game where it's just, if fireworks left and right. Okay, yeah, maybe you have to put up 400 yards to win that game. But other than that, they've been doing really well. And a lot of that is on Baker Mayfield's improvement. And Chris Collingsworth actually pointed this out in the Monday Night Football broadcast that I went and looked into, and he was completely right, is that Baker's mechanics have drastically improved from the beginning of the season. And the thing I want to focus on is this front foot of Baker Mayfield's. You're going to see this is week 1 against the Ravens. And his mechanics are just a little bit too loose, a little bit too gunslinger, I'd like to call it. And look at this front foot. You see how it's just kind of all over the place? It just goes crazy, and he's opening it up a whole ton. With a more sidearm than 3/4 release. And you see that he puts this ball behind Odell Beckham that could have been a completion on a tight window throw. We look at his progression to last week against the Giants. Primetime football. And just look at how much more clean his footwork is and how it's just a little bit more over the top of his release. It's nice, man. And the thing that Chris Collingsworth pointed out is that his front foot, I'll try and get it on a still image, is pigeon-toed. It's facing the sideline a little bit. It's not as opened up as it traditionally would be. See how it's pointed towards the sideline? Release coming way more over the top, not throwing on this back foot. It's just way more sound. And then we compare it to this throw, where it's all on his back foot. Not as over the top. Nowhere near as accurate. Obviously, Stefanski and this coaching staff has been improving and working on Baker's mechanics. Baker has been trying to improve and work on his mechanics, and it shows on the stat sheet. This is a guy that has been drastically increasing his completion percentage and quarterback rating the past couple of weeks. He has now, from that Giants game, second and third in franchise history in games with the highest completion percentage for the Browns. And he's making more tight window throws than ever. The other thing that you just have to point out is that Baker is way more confident when he throws the football. He's getting rid of the ball faster, and he's not taking the bait anymore. I hate to put it that way, but he was a quarterback coming in. Lincoln Riley said this about Baker Mayfield, is that he's the kind of guy that when he sees something once, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. And halfway through his third season, that is coming to fruition. He's seen a whole lot, and he is drastically improving. He just needed to go through the ringer a little bit.
Yeah.
So here's week 1 against the Ravens. Baker Mayfield had a pretty crap game. And you're going to see he has this out route open. He has this little sticks concept, right? He has it. And you see how he just hitches it right here. He doesn't want to throw it. His confidence, he's just not there. Baker Mayfield now hits this. But at the time, he just wasn't getting it out quick enough. He wasn't trusting his arm, his mechanics. He wasn't trusting the offense. I mean, this is week 1 in a COVID year with a new system, right? And then we saw classic Baker Mayfield trying to make things happen with his legs, right? That was the old Baker Mayfield. Let's get into the new Baker Mayfield under Kevin Stefanski. You're going to get here. This guy, one of these guys, I think it's actually him, is going to run a corner route, and you're going to get an out route, right? Basic smash kind of concept. We're high-lowing Marcus Peters in this cover 3 look. And Baker Mayfield does a fantastic job of identifying Marcus Peters' leverage. So right here, you're high-lowing Marcus Peters. If he goes up to try and jump this out route, you hit it over the top. If he plays over the top, then you got an easy, well, not easy, because you got to throw it over this linebacker, under this corner, throw to David Njoku on the out route, right? Basic concept, high-low. Marcus Peters, this is probably a game plan thing as well, with Stefanski and them, is a guy that loves to jump routes. He's always looking to try and read a quarterback's eyes and get an easy pick. That's who Marcus Peters is. And Baker Mayfield does a fantastic job of realizing that he's not committed to playing this corner route. He wants this interception on this out route. He wants Baker to throw this so he can jump it and make a big play for this defense. And you see here, he's just I'll replay it here, but he just stops a little bit. You see how he stops there and he wants to jump it? Well, Baker Mayfield realizes this and throws a perfect ball over the top to Peoples-Jones. This is the new Baker Mayfield, folks. Old Baker Mayfield probably doesn't see this.
Yeah.
You know, under pressure. No hesitation. Just fires it. This is the improvement of Baker Mayfield, the former number 1 overall pick and Heisman Trophy winner. This is the new, confident Baker Mayfield. Not as cocky, still a little cocky, but way more confident than cocky.
Mm-hmm.
And credit to Kevin Stefanski, credit to Baker Mayfield himself, because he's obviously worked on this stuff during the season in a tough year.
Yeah, one more quick little stat on Baker. You hinted at it he's getting the ball out quicker. His time to throw on the first 5 weeks of the season, he was clocking at 3.22 seconds. Versus the last month or so, where you really seen the Browns take off, he is a tick under 3 at 2.995 seconds.
It's almost a quarter of a second faster.
Yeah.
It may not seem like a lot, but in the NFL, that is the difference between completions and incompletions. And you can see that. His completion percentage has skyrocketed. His quarterback rating has skyrocketed. His confidence has skyrocketed. And the Browns, their record has skyrocketed as well as a result.
Yeah. The thing about Baker Mayfield is that, he's always played better under a chip on his shoulder. It dates back to his early days in college. I feel like when he walked on at Texas Tech, not many walk-ons get really a chance to play or whatever. He plays there, plays well, and then he transfers to Oklahoma. And he wins a starting job there, and rest was history. He gets number 1 overall pick. Rookie of the year, breaks the rookie touchdown passing record, and then last year with all the additions to the team, them sound the buzz that the Browns are a Super Bowl. They're going to make the Super Bowl run, and they play horrible. They're not a good team. Baker's throwing picks left and right. And to where kind of people were just riding off Baker Mayfield this year and not believing in the Browns, it was able for him, in my eyes, to go back to that. To what got him there was to be that underdog, not be in the spotlight, prove some people wrong, and he's clearly doing it now with the Browns going to make the playoffs and possibly make it deeper in the playoffs.
It's just everything is going right now for this Browns team. And I think you were completely right, and you hit on that. The under Freddie Kitchens and even, it was mainly under Kitchens. You were just hearing all the time, oh, Browns Super Bowl? Browns Super Bowl? They hadn't made the playoffs in the past 16 years. Why are you talking about the Super Bowl? This year, you come in, people's expectations are lower. People are saying, oh, Baker Mayfield's not a franchise quarterback. He hasn't improved from year 1 to year 2. He can't play. Browns offense is nowhere near good enough. They have a good running attack, but that's about it. After week 1, they were saying the defense is one of the worst defenses in the league. This is exactly what the Browns needed. They needed everyone to keep doubting them. They needed to just be that underdog. And it's really worked. And now, people are still going to doubt him. But I really like what I'm seeing out of this Browns team, especially their offense.
I do too. It's great. I feel like the verbiage on franchise quarterback is just kind of I feel like everybody, whenever they think of franchise quarterbacks, they think of Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, which are 2 generational talents. If you're going to put every franchise quarterback in their category, then there's not going to be many franchise quarterbacks, and you can win this game with different style quarterbacks. If it wants to be Lamar Jackson, where it's a run heavy team, if it's a Baker Mayfield where you have to put a system under him to succeed. But at the end of the day, you can win games with these kind of quarterbacks. They don't have to be Patrick Mahomes doing the no look and all this stuff. And it brings you back to the Matthew Stafford point, because coming out and still, was Matthew Stafford talented than Baker Mayfield? Yeah. But they've got the coach right. They made the right additions, and they got the scheme right. And Stafford's never had that, and Baker has that. And you see him being able to fulfill that number 1 overall pick with his numbers this year. And it's just, at the end of the day, it comes down to scheme and coaching and the players inside that scheme, understanding the concept. And if they do that, You know, like it's really tough to beat, especially a team with like the best running back duo and Baker's growth throughout the season.
I mean, you're completely right. I don't understand the whole hate on quarterbacks in a good situation. Like, oh, well, Baker Mayfield's only succeeding because he has a good coach and good O-line. Like, okay, Patrick Mahomes has got all the same stuff too. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is ridiculous, but the fact of the matter is that to be a really top tier quarterback, you need to be in a good system. This is the NFL. You're only as strong as your weakest link in football. And Stefanski has tailored the offense towards Baker Mayfield's strengths. They're getting him out of the pocket more now. And it's not like everything is wide open. It's not like it's just sunshine and roses out here for the Browns. He's still making great plays, like on that high-low concept. There are plenty of the quarterbacks in the league that wouldn't make that throw. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger against the Bengals probably wouldn't have made that throw because he was playing like crap.
Yeah.
There are plenty of quarterbacks that aren't as confident, and the Browns are hot, and right now is the time to get hot. But let's move on to another AFC team, and instead of making the playoffs for the first time in 17 years, they're missing the playoffs for the first time in I don't even know how many years. It's been a while. It's been a long time.
What was the year they got was that it was 2008, I'm pretty sure, where Brady got hurt and they put in Matt Castle. It was the year after the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure.
But man, the Patriots, what a rough season as a Patriots fan. Fall from grace. I mean, you kind of saw it coming when Brady left, but
yeah.
Real quick.
Plus,
what were you going to say?
And plus, like, they had so many players opt out of COVID, you know?
Yeah.
They lost a good chunk of their team.
So, really quickly, I wanted to do a Patriots season review. So, first off, let's start with Cam Newton.
Oh, God.
What grade are you going to give Cam Newton for this year, Mr. Steed? If you had to give him an A, B, D, F, whatever, what grade this season are you going to give Cam Newton?
I mean, dude, first few weeks, Cam Newton, I probably gave him like a B minus. You know, like remember the Sunday Night Football game against Seattle? I'm like,
oh,
okay,
a B minus for the first couple weeks. I feel like that's harsh. I would have given him an A.
I don't know, dude. It's just like it was still like a little funky though. Like it just like the passing numbers weren't totally there, but like now, like the season's gone throughout. Like, I mean, dude, I'm gonna be really harsh. I'm gonna give him a D plus. You know. You kept him in some games. You won some games that you were not favored in. But, like, at the end of the day, like, a team where, like, in the beginning few weeks, we're like, okay, the Patriots should still compete to now where it's just like, you know, like, Cam Newton's not the guy. He clearly is not the guy. It was a 1-year contract, and it's on, the veteran minimum. So, like, why not if you need a quarterback? But, you know, like, what you get out – what you know from Cam Newton moving on from – especially if you're in Patriots organization is that – he's not the quarterback, and I don't know if Cam Newton can really be a starting quarterback in the NFL anymore. So like they'll be shopping for a QB. So I give Cam Newton an E, solid D plus. He's going to have to retake the class.
I'm going to give Cam Newton a solid C for this year, 75, maybe 74. And for a couple of reasons. The first off is that the Patriots offense has about absolutely nothing going for them. They had a good offensive line. I'll give them credit. A lot better run blocking than pass blocking, in my opinion. But they could run the football and they could pound the rock. And it showed in some games. You know, they were able to get an upset win over the Ravens on primetime. They were able to destroy the Raiders earlier in the season.
They beat the crap out of the Chargers, too.
Yeah, and they absolutely tore the Chargers a new one. They beat the Cardinals. This Patriots team beat some good football teams this year.
They did.
But for as many times as they did that, Cam Newton was unable to consistently move the ball through the air. For whatever reason. Whether it's definitely partly on him, but it's also partly on the fact that their receivers are pretty bad. The only real bright spot this year has been Jacoby Myers. Yeah, Damiere Byrd's been all right. tight end play has been pretty bad still, even though they drafted 2 tight ends. James White has been inconsistent, which is in part due to the tragic events that happened to his family. So I'm not gonna like criticize him for that. It's just reality, and it's really unfortunate what happened to them. But it hurt this football team. He was a leader of this football team, and you've seen with him not playing as well and not being around the facility during that middle stretch of the season, they struggled. The only real bright spots of their offense has been their offensive line and Damian Harris, who's gotten now banged up.
Yeah.
And the offense as a whole, I'm probably going to give a C as well. Offensive line, I'd give a B+. I think that they could definitely get better in their pass pro. But in general, offensive line, it was much better than last season. I'll give them credit. That rookie right tackle looks really, really good. Receivers, I'm giving them a D. Receivers need to get better for this football team. They struggle to create separation. They have no guy that they can consistently rely on to beat one-on-one coverage. It's really bad. They need help at receiver. Tight end, I'm going to give a D as well. Maybe a D+. They came in, you weren't really expecting too much. They didn't really spend high-quality draft picks on these guys. But you would have, and then again, tight end is a developmental position, so I'm not going to say that these guys suck for years to come. It's just the fact of the matter is that they needed help at this position this year. It would have been nice to have a good quality vet around this season. Mm-hmm. So you're getting a D+. Not saying that the jury's out on them, but for this year, you let the team down. And running backs, I'll give a B-, maybe. Damian Harris had some really, really good football games, and he's a great bright spot. But at the end of the day, the position group Rex Burkhead had a few good games. Sony Michel's now back. James White has been all right here and there. We just touched on him. But they didn't have a running back or running game that they could really rely on consistently.
Yeah.
So I have to give you a B-. It was there for some games. You could rely on it some games. But at the end of the day, if you want to compare the Patriots running attack to a really top-tier running attack, like the Titans, like the Vikings, even the Browns, it's nowhere near as consistent and as good. So I can't go out here and give you a B+ or an A. You're slightly above average when you compare it to like the Texans or the Steelers nowadays. Like, okay, you got a better run game than those teams. But it's not like you're an elite level, incredibly above average. It's just too inconsistent. What would you give the position groups for this Patriots team if you were to grade them out?
Receivers, definitely a D-. I don't really have to go too much on that because they suck. They all suck. They're terrible. Elman's dropping passes out here. And you're right. They just don't create any separation. It's like they're too slow off the ball. And God, who's the guy they drafted again from Arizona State, the first-round pick?
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, N'Keal Harry. What a bust.
What a disaster, man. What a disaster of a pick.
Belichick to take it, that's the first receiver he's ever taken the first round, and Belichick's done few wrongs in his career, but Jesus, that might be his worst miss because like that has just not panned out. Where last year it took him a while to get on the field because he was hurt, comes in, doesn't really make an impact, and this year, like, is it because Cam Newton is haltering you there? But still, you're just like not producing anything, Like, I mean, I've seen DJ Moore put up numbers with Kyle Allen. So, like, I'm figuring if you're a first-round pick, you should be able to put up pretty decent numbers with Cam Newton. And then, I think your grade on tight end's fair. Really haven't done
harsh,
too much.
though. It was a little harsh.
Just the whole team really has, like, the offense is just, like, just – it's inconsistent, But like the running game I would give a C+. Damian Harris has had some really good games. James White's always a reliable source when he's on the field, and Sony, like, still for a first round pick, I feel like you got to put him like, I know he was pretty like huge in that Super Bowl run they had a few years ago, but like since then, when has he been productive? He's been hurt, and when he's on the field, it just feels like he doesn't really give anything. I don't know. And I give him a C plus just because like Damian Harris, that's a piece they could move forward with, next year when they're trying to like reshape up and redo this thing. But that's what I would give like the offensive group.
Yeah, real quick before we get to the defensive side of the football, one of the things that I don't like about the Patriots' usage of Sony Michel is that I feel like they're not putting him in the role that he was successful at UGA. He was kind of that, because they had that thunder and lightning almost of Nick Chubb and Sony, right? And Sony was almost the lightning to the thunder of Nick Chubb. And right now it feels like the Patriots backfield is their thunder and lightning is that Sony Michel is the thunder and James White is the lightning, which for good measure. I mean, James White is a better third down back than Sony Michel is. He's proven that. But at the end of the day, I think that there's not enough space in that run game for Sony Michel to work with. He's not the type of back that really fits the system they have right now. And the other problem is that he's just had nagging injuries. He's had injuries basically every year now. And I think that those are just starting to take a toll. So in terms of was that pick a bust? In a sense, yeah, you'd have to qualify it as it was like more overpay than a bust, though, because you're right. When Sony first came into the league, he was incredibly productive. The scheme, I think, has since changed since he was drafted. Yes, the pick is a bust, but is it a terrible pick? I don't think I'm going to qualify it as a terrible pick. It was a bad pick, and it definitely could have been better, but it's not an N'Keal Harry level of atrocity, where N'Keal Harry, he's not even, like, you expected him to be good, and at the very minimum, a threat in the red zone. A guy that it's like, okay, if I get him one-on-one, I can throw the ball up to him, and he'll come down with it, right? He has been unable to do even that, let alone like anything else. So,
yeah, it's like a Laquan Treadwell pick, like a guy taking the first round and just has done jack shit with his career, just kind of bullet. Even though he scored touchdowns.
I don't want to say the jury's out on N'Keal Harry because, like, he's still a young guy. He can still improve. I wasn't a fan of him coming out. I'm still not a fan of him, unsurprisingly. So, even though I said I'm not going to say the jury's out, And Keel, I'm sorry. I'm giving up on you. If you turn it around, all credit to you, my friend. But let's move on to the defensive side of the football. What would you grade the defense for the Patriots this year at?
I give them a solid B. This defense, the offense could put them behind the 8 ball some games, but like you said, they've had games where like they shut out the Chargers. They've played really good against the Ravens, and even back to that Chiefs game where like Cam Newton had COVID and they had to play Hoyer and Stidham. I thought the defense played pretty well against the Chiefs that week, and really the corners, with Stephon Gilmore and Jackson, it doesn't really get much better than that. Honestly, that's a pretty dynamic duo right there. Like safety's always been a huge play for them. Now you got to remember they were out with their probably, after Gilmore, their best defensive player in Hightower for the whole season too. So that's detrimental. That sucks. But for what it's given, I mean, the reason why they're in many of these games is because their defense are able to make stops and give their offense a little bit of a fighting chance.
Yeah, I'm going to separate the defense by, instead of just going by position, just to do it a little bit quicker, I'm just going to separate it by front 7, which is defensive linemen and linebackers, and secondary, which is just safeties and corners, basically. The secondary for the Patriots, I'm going to give an A-. It's definitely not as dominant as it was last year, unsurprisingly, because they had Patrick Chung opt out, which was a really big loss for this football team. But J.C. Jackson really stepped up as a top-notch corner. I think a lot of Patriots fans legitimately believe that he would be a number one corner on a lot of other teams, and I actually do tend to agree with that. You know, he's had a couple rough moments, mainly against the Jets. He had a pretty rough game, but he was able to turn it around in that football game at the end of the game. And then obviously Stephon Gilmore is still really good. The only really mediocre game he had was against the Seahawks, which is against DK Metcalf, who makes a whole lot of cornerbacks look pretty mediocre, right? And
yeah, he does.
There was a couple tough reps, right? But other than that, really, this Patriots secondary, I think the Chiefs game that you brought up was a really good example. They just played coverage and were able to win that game. If their offense was able to score really at all with some of the chances their defense gave them, and the fact that they had a turnover that should have been a turnover that just wasn't for some reason. It was one of the worst calls I've seen this season, to be honest, to not call it a fumble. That probably would have put more points on the board and put the Patriots in the game even more. Scoreline does not do that game justice. So I'm going to give their secondary an A-. I think their secondary did a pretty good job. Yeah, there's a little bit of room for in there, but for the most part, it's a top-tier secondary. Front seven, I'm going to have to give probably a C, though. That is the one area where the Patriots defense took a major step back. I think against the 49ers, for example, they gave up a lot of rushing yards and rushing touchdowns that game, and that was the main reasons why they weren't able to stick in that game. Same thing with the Rams game a couple of weeks ago. Cam Akers and the Rams running attack just bullied the Patriots up front. And, you know, against weaker run defenses, they look good. And they look good against the Ravens, they look pretty good. Against the Cardinals, they look pretty good stopping the run. Like, they've had definitely good weeks. But against these top-tier running offenses, right, teams like the 49ers and teams like the Rams, even though they may not be, I guess they're not necessarily top tier, but pretty good running offenses and running-minded offensive coaches. They've struggled, and they've struggled to the point where they were unable to be in the ball game because they couldn't keep their offense on the field, and the defense was on the field the entire game, just getting battered and beat down. So I'm going to have to give that area a C, maybe a C plus, just because some games they have looked really good, their front seven. But I think I do credit that more to the coaching staff than necessarily the talent of their front seven pieces. They just, like, losing guys like Kyle Van Noy and Hightower and all those guys, it's really showing this season. And I think that they need some help on in that area of their defense. But I think you're right. Overall, I'd give the defense a solid B, with their secondary definitely leading the way. And I think that is the Patriots season in review. Did we give the Patriots an overall grade? Yeah, we gave them an overall grade. So I'm going to go with C. You said what? A C minus? D? D plus?
D plus.
D plus? I think that's a little harsh.
I mean, well, like, if you're a Patriots fan, like, I think, you know.
Okay, yeah, for their expectations, you're right.
Yeah. Which, like, I feel like going in, their expectation was a little low. You know, you got the GOAT's gone. You had so many people opt out. You don't really know where you're getting out of Cam Newton. Is he just damaged goods, or can he turn it around? So I feel like their expectations coming in were low, but, you know, like, it's still at the beginning of the season, it looked like, you know, this team is not really missing too much of a beat. They can still contend, make the playoffs. But, you know, when you have two teams on the rise in your division as the Dolphins and the Bills, you know, like, it really just set them back. You know, like, they're just not in the same tier as those teams, but they're not in the same tier as the Jets. Not many teams are in the same tier as the Jets, but, you know, they're kind of just like week in, week out, the Patriots are that team where they could beat you or they could lose by 20. You know, it's just it's a weird team. It's a weird team.
Yeah, I think, going back to the expectations for the Patriots, I think that most Patriots fans in the beginning of the season said, hey, we're winning at least 9 games. 9 games is the minimum. And if you
Yeah,
remember, like that over-under for the Patriots was 8.5, which I thought was a really good line from Vegas. I thought they really hit the nail on the head.
yeah, they
Looks
did.
like the under is going to be hitting for that one.
Well, I think Patriots fans, I mean, I'm going to say they're spoiled because you do have 6 Super Bowl rings. But coming into the season, you had, I think they felt like the Bills were not legit because maybe it's just like in their minds they've ran this division for so long. Well, this division is not crap anymore. Like the Bills are a legitimate Super Bowl team. The Dolphins are a young team on the rise with a young quarterback who's a franchise guy. Like the Patriots are kind of in that mode too now, where those two teams seem like they got the head coach right, they got the quarterback right, and they have a good defense. So like the Patriots are going to have to get back in that mold. And who knows, after this year, after all these players come back with COVID, they're probably going to draft a quarterback, I assume. I mean, they're going to be picking in the top 10, I would guess.
Definitely
So,
around there.
I mean, are they going to be the team that trades up for Justin Fields, or are they going to just settle for Trey Lance? I mean, that's still to be determined. But especially on the offensive side, they got to start they're going to have to figure something out moving forward. Their defense at any given day with Belichick and their pieces, they can win some ball games. But if they want to get back into the classification and competing with those two teams, then they're going to have to figure out the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that next season we should see this team improve. I also think that people thought that Belichick was just going to carry them, which you can only do so much as a coach with the pieces you're given. And
Yeah.
I don't think you can really put too much of the season on Belichick because this was one of the tougher coaching jobs that you could be asked to have, a transitioning football team. I mean, the fact that he was able to make the team last as long as it did and be as dominant for as long as it was tough enough in and of itself. But now you have the new challenge of rebuilding the team. So that's going to be it for the Patriots season review. Let's get into a new segment we're going to do for the next 2 episodes, looking at the playoffs. It's called Legit or Not, the AFC edition. We are going to be going through 8 teams in the AFC that look like they could be making the playoffs. We'll do 9, actually, but one of them is kind of a given. And we are going to be asking basically the question of, can this team get to the Super Bowl? Are they legit? Not necessarily win the Super Bowl. Can they be the champion of the AFC? So let's start off with the Raiders. I think we can do this one real quick. They are not legit. We love the Raiders. We had this Super Bowl bet on them, $20 to win $1,200 with our Super Bowl party at Hooters, which is unfortunate.
It's not happening this year.
Yeah, it looked really good at the beginning of the season, but we were skeptical that their defense was just not good enough. Their front seven was just too inconsistent, especially against teams that could really just dominate the line of scrimmage. Their offense now has started to turn the football over. Derek Carr's hurt. So you kind of lost that Derek Carr playing as a top 10 quarterback that was definitely carrying them as a football team. And in general, we kind of thought this team is a little bit too young. They lack a little bit of talent on that defensive side of the football. Probably whether it's a stud corner, and some defensive line front seven help they could definitely use. And in the beginning of the season, we liked this team, but we did recognize that they were probably 1 year away. So I do like the Raiders coming into next year, but let's just get through them. They are not legit. Let's get into the first team that we are going to be talking about. We'll start off with the team that we just did an analysis on, the Cleveland Browns. Steed, as our resident Browns believer, do you believe in this team's ability to be crowned champions of the AFC after this season?
I mean, I feel like I have to stay true to them the whole season, right? I don't know. I just said they were a playoff team. The thing about the Browns is they win their remaining games and they're 12-4, but that means they would beat y'all and that y'all would be tied.
He's talking about the Steelers for reference.
Yeah, the Steelers. So if they can get that, that makes them win the division. And I like that a whole lot better because they get home field. But let's just say, they go 11-5. They would get the 5 seed. All right, I'm going to say to win the AFC, no. The Browns will not win the AFC. The Browns are a playoff team. That's what I said at the beginning of the year. I'm going to keep it like that. I think this Browns team can win a playoff game easily. But to win the AFC, I think those upper echelon of teams can just, at the end of the day, beat them. Even though I think the Browns could contend with anyone. We've seen that. But I will say the Browns are not a Super Bowl team.
It's funny because I actually believe for this season, not that I don't think the Browns are, but I do think that they could get to the Super Bowl for a couple of reasons. First off, their edge rushers, Olivier Vernon, really been playing at an elite level recently, which is huge for that football team. Baker Mayfield is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL. They have a great run game, which should serve them well come the winter time in the playoffs. And I'm just going through the AFC roster. I believe the Browns can beat the Titans. I believe the Browns can beat the Dolphins. I believe the Browns can beat the Bills on a good day. I believe, and they have, beat the Colts. I believe that they could take down the Ravens. Aside from my Steelers, which I do think that they could win, but I don't think it's a good matchup for them because we could create interior pressure against Baker Mayfield that he could struggle with. And the Chiefs, for the fact that I'm just not sure the Browns' defense is going to be able to impact Patrick Mahomes enough for him to not throw up 35 points like he usually does. Aside from those two teams, and maybe a healthy Ravens. I don't think the Ravens are a great matchup either. But the rest of the teams, I think the Browns can easily beat. So just for that fact, the fact that I think that they could get to the AFC Championship, I have to say they're legit. I'm not going to pick them for the AFC Championship, and if they're playing the Chiefs or the Steelers or the Ravens, I would not be happy as a Browns fan. But the Steelers or the Ravens could easily get knocked out by one of these other ball clubs that I think that they have a worse matchup against. And this Colts game this weekend is going to be telling for this football team. But for the Browns, I'm going to say they're legit. I think that they're right on that cusp, though, of not being legit. But
yeah, they're the borderline team for it because, I'm gonna say not, but dude, that could easily change throughout the next 2 weeks because if they win out and they win then they can still win the North.
Yeah, they could
win the North. That's a 3 seed more than likely. With the Chiefs at 1, the Bills at 2, and that's them as a 3 seed playing against the 6, who would be right now. That'd be the Colts. You beat the Colts early on, and then the next week you would play the Bills probably if there wasn't depending who that 7 is, if it's the Ravens or the Dolphins. I mean, if you're the Browns, you want that 3 seed because you like that road to the AFC Championship more than you would being the 5 seed where you would play the Titans, and then it's just up to that. Maybe you play the Chiefs the next week.
Well, I think that's the big issue.
If the favorites won, and you beat the 4 seed, then you would have to play the Chiefs the next week.
Exactly. You want to do anything you can to avoid them.
Yeah, so the Browns, they got to make it imperative to win it, and it's the same thing with the Steelers too. You haven't played your best ball in the last 3 weeks, but you got to think, is this next week a must-win game against the Colts? Not necessarily. The must-win game is against the Browns on Week 17. Believe it or not, I'm saying it. The must-win game for that division is going to be Browns versus Steelers, Week 17.
All right, let's So we're splitting the Browns. Let's go into the Steelers then. Let's say Steelers, legit or not.
Do you want to go first? This is your team, or?
I think you know my answer.
I know you're gonna say legit. Dude,
Real quick. There are a few concerns that I have with this team. A couple that I've had since the beginning of this. And this is the biggest concern I have for this team and why I think that I could put them in the not legit, and I wouldn't criticize anyone for that. A couple, actually. First off, their running attack is incredibly inconsistent. Mm-hmm. They don't have a stable back that they can rely on. That may become Benny Snell because he had a great game against the Bengals, probably the only bright spot for that football team. And their linebackers are just so decimated. Losing Devin Bush was tough enough on this defense because coming into the season, that was just a position that the Steelers didn't have a ton of depth in. But then Robert Spillane steps up and is a great player for this defense, and then you lose him too. So it's like, okay, you traded for Avery Williamson. He's an average linebacker, and now you have to rely on Marcus Allen, a safety converted to linebacker, to play linebacker, who also got banged up last week. It's just very tough on this defense that is a defense that has traditionally relied on their linebackers to make plays in the run game and be a force in the passing game as well. And you saw how much better the defense was with Devin Bush playing at a top-tier linebacker level and how elite they were in the beginning of the season. And the fact of the matter is, it's scary that the Cincinnati Bengals, of all teams, the Cincinnati Bengals, who won 2 games, now 3, with one of the worst offensive lines in football, according to consensus, was able to control the line of scrimmage against a top-tier defensive line of the Steelers. That is scary. And the fact of the matter is that they lost the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football against a terrible football team of the Bengals. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Bengals are not a good football team. Yeah, they had a good win against the Titans and a great win against the Steelers. They showed up, the Steelers didn't. But that's not an excuse, and let's not get ahead of ourselves acting like the Bengals are some underrated menace force to be reckoned with football team. That football team is bad. Their offensive line is still bad. Their defensive line is still subpar. They have good pieces, but it's not complete. And I think it just more poked holes and showed the flaws of the Steelers more so than showed that the Bengals are some underrated, God-given elite football team.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the legit or not, you're right. Devin Bush was a big loss for the defense, and the offense is just clearly not getting it done. Drop passes and Big Ben only having 19 yards at half or something like that. And running game's so shoddy, dude. It is too. I'm gonna say they're legit, but they're borderline for me because the thing with the Steelers is that I feel like when they were undefeated, it was all all the players celebrating on social media and stuff like this, Juju dancing on every team's logo and stuff. Listen, you lost 3 crucial games in a row, and what have you done in that time? You have lost the 1 seed. You have dropped now back to the 3 seed, and you're on verge of losing the division now. And if I'm Tomlin, I'm talking in there to the guys and be like, listen, what did y'all accomplish in 11 weeks? Yeah, you won every game, but you didn't win the season. I mean, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So get that dancing crap, get the TikTok crap out of the locker room, buckle down, Deontay, catch a damn ball, and let's go to work. I mean, this team is too talented still at the end of the day to lose to the Bengals, I think it just got in their head a little bit from the locker room perspective, is just that they were touching the sun or touching God, they were at the top of the mountain, they could do no wrong, and they got relaxed. As a Super Bowl team, you should always have that hunger to win more. I'm not saying they didn't want to win those games, but I think they were content in what they did up to the season to that point. Now, with 3 losses in a row and throwing yourself deeper in the playoffs like this, I'm trying to get the boys focused back in. I'll say they're legit because, like, still you have Big Ben at the end of the day. He's had a lot of success in his career. He's a playoff quarterback. He knows the ins and out. If there's crunch time in a playoff game and it's a close game, I know Big Ben gives me a fighting chance. And I've seen that team in and out make some plays. And, and I'm hoping, like, maybe the idea of them getting to the playoffs kind of like starts over the season for them. So like it's like, they're like starting back at week 1 where everybody's 0-0 and you're not the only undefeated team left. So I'm hoping that maybe like flips a switch for them. But I say they're like legit, but like they're getting kind of borderline with me. It's crazy to say for an 11-3 team. It's like I said before, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and they're just finishing on a bad note for me,
Yeah. Now, I think that there are some bright spots coming up for the Steelers team. The first off is that their offensive line should be getting healthier. They had to start a couple backups. And like getting Dotson back is going to be huge for their run game because he came up and was a mauler this year in the running attack. And Filer was also hurt. He's a tackle transition to guard. I think he may come back and play right tackle for this football team. Because Chuck Okorafor just struggled at the right tackle position yesterday. A big problem also is tight. There are a lot of problems with the football team. I think that things are going to get a little bit better. They're just in a bit of a rough stretch. And the thing about the Steelers, and it's always been this way, is that they are a team that will play down to competition, but will also play up to competition. So if they're matched up against the Chiefs, well, I don't think that they're going to blow the Chiefs out by any stretch of the imagination. And there always is the fact that the Chiefs could go in and just completely crap on the Steelers. I think that, though, more realistically, is that their defense will give them a fighter's chance in that football game. And if there's going to be a team to knock them out, I think that the Steelers would be one of the best teams suited to doing so in the playoffs. So for that reason, and if you play a team like the Ravens or the Browns, division rivals in the playoffs, I think the Steelers definitely have an edge because they just generally do well in the division, will always keep those games close. So for those reasons, I think that you have to put them as legit, even though you're right, for an 11-3 team, it's surprising that we're putting them more on the back half, but I do think that things will get better for this football team. Let's move on to the Ravens. First off, we have to ask the question of, are the Ravens going to even make the playoffs? And second off, if they do make the playoffs, are they legit or not?
What's their record right now? They got 2 games left. I know they play the Giants and the Bengals. So like they're favored right there. Okay, they can go 11-5. So they're slotted at 11-5. The big question is for the Ravens is that they need help from the Raiders and the Bills, because the Dolphins hold the tiebreaker over the Ravens just because of a better win percentage in the conference games. And they both go 11-5. That's crazy to think. 11-5, even with an addition of an extra playoff team, won't make it. I mean, depending if like everybody else wins out, like Colts or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's the big question mark. Is that the Titans have to play the Packers and the Texans. So, okay, one game. The Colts have to play the Steelers this upcoming week, which is at Heinz Field around Christmas time, is never a fun game. And then they get a nice game at home against the Jaguars, against a team that probably doesn't want to win. From the front office, the players obviously want to win, but a team that is probably actively looking to not win to get Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So you're right in that you need the Colts or the Titans to lose 2 games, or you need help with the Dolphins losing.
Yeah, and the thing about the Dolphins is like, that week 17 against the Bills already clinched the division and pretty much locked up if they win one more game, they lock up the 2 seed. So I'm sure they'll just be resting their players there. Won't be playing. So that should be a win for the Dolphins. But yeah, I guess it really comes down to the Colts. But like to talk about the Ravens are legit or not, if the Ravens get in, they are legit. This team, like, they went through a little bumpy streak where they got some players hurt and that offense just wasn't performing at the same time. I think the Ravens are kind of getting it back now. They put up back-to-back weeks of 40-plus points. Their defense has always been Super Bowl caliber. You saw it when they played the Steelers on Tuesday night with even people hurt. They were still able to make it like somewhat kind of a ball game, like it was just kind of they were there, but like you just knew they weren't going to win the game. But I like where this Ravens team is going, and it's not like the Ravens team of last year when they were 14-2 and blah 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 this and Lamar Jackson couldn't. Lamar Jackson's now played 2 playoff games. That's what I'm saying. And if he gets in, I just don't think he's the type of quarterback that won't be like he can't win the playoffs. I might throw down a future bet this team winning the Super Bowl because the teams with the outside shot of like besides the Chiefs, I really like this Ravens team because like they're very hot right now. If they get in, they can make some noise. Now, like it would be from where it'd be from the roadside, but like we've seen from Ravens teams in the past, back when they won the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, they were road dogs. They were just road winning it out, and maybe that's what they need. They don't need the home field advantage. They'd rather have the chip on their shoulder. So I'm going to say the Ravens are a legit contender to win the AFC.
So I'm going to probably regret saying this, but I do not believe that the Ravens are legit for a few reasons. The first being that I don't think this team is going to make the playoffs. I think that right now that the Dolphins are just going to make it over. Now, if the Ravens do make the playoffs, which there's a good chance they do, I'm not saying it's impossible, but right now I just think that the Dolphins have a great shot of making the playoffs. If they do make the playoffs, it's a little bit interesting because if we just look at their couple of recent games, so you smack the Jaguars suck. You smack the Cowboys have proven that they're getting a little bit better now, but they're incredibly inconsistent. You had a really close game against the Browns. I think that the problem with the Ravens right now, and if they were to make the playoffs, isn't their talent level. This team has the talent to get to the Super Bowl. They have the coaching, they have the pieces. It's just, I'm just not sure they're going to be able to put everything together. Their defense and their team in general has faced just so much adversity with injuries and COVID and all that, which I do think will help them to a certain extent. But the fact of the matter is that if they get into a situation like last season against the Titans, or, this season against the Chiefs, where they are losing by 7 to 10 points at halftime, I'm not sure I trust this team to come back and win that football game, which I think the recent playoffs have shown that you have to be able to do if you want to make the Super Bowl. And until they prove to me that they can, I just am not sure that they are a contender. And it's not about their talent. It's not about their coaching. I just think that at the end of the day, they face so much adversity and have had to deal with so much that I'm not sure they're going to be able to put it all together at the right time when necessary. And I'm just not sure that they're a team that's I don't want to say they're not built for making the Super Bowl, because I actually really do like this Ravens team ranking. I didn't have them, or maybe I had them at 10, but I was saying that this Ravens team is probably going to get hot. Their schedule's favorable, and they're going to make a run at the playoffs. I mean, everyone saw it coming. And if I'm a team, I probably wouldn't want to play the Ravens. But just looking at these teams, if the Ravens and the Bills played, I'd probably take the Bills. If the Ravens and the Chiefs played, you have to take the Chiefs. I think the Titans would still give them issues. The Steelers would just be a close game. Steelers-Ravens would always probably be a close game, especially in the playoffs. I mean, the Browns, I think they have a very favorable matchup against the Browns. That's why I took them. But I think the Browns definitely prove that they can tangle with the Ravens.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say not legit. Once again, I may regret that, but until they prove to me that when they're down in a football game, coming into halftime, are they able to switch gears and adjust? Until then, I need to see it to believe it. So I'm going to say they're not legit.
That's fair. But if you're a Ravens fan, it's kind of weird because you're cheering for the Steelers this weekend, you know?
Yeah,
Because
right.
if the Steelers beat the Colts, then
Just gives them
you
another
win
out.
Yeah, and the Colts win against the Jags, and the Colts are 11-5, and the Ravens went out. They're 11-5. They have the tiebreaker over the Colts because they beat them on earlier
Yeah,
in the
I think
year.
so. Yeah, this Week 17 playoff stuff could get wild, especially for the last wild card spot in the AFC.
Really, some of the scenarios comes down because if the Colts beat the Steelers, then you can kind of start wishing, unless a dramatic upset from the Jags or the Dolphins losing one of their next two games, then the Ravens are out at 11-5.
And the Titans do have the tiebreaker over the Ravens because the Titans beat them in overtime.
Yeah, they beat them earlier in the year. Jesus Christ, dude. This is all just a cluster.
Yeah, this is really starting to get messy. But let's move off of the Ravens. Let's just knock out the Chiefs. The Chiefs are legit.
I mean, dude, this is maybe not. And this is why. They have some glaring holes. Patrick Mahomes is not the GOAT yet, so he's not Tom Brady. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, has he been the first-round pick? I don't know. And their defense, it's decent. It's pretty good. But, yeah, they're legit. They're the favorite for a reason.
Yeah. Everyone knows they're legit. Okay, so we got the Titans. Wait, do we do the Titans? Let's do the Titans.
We got the Titans, Colts, and the Dolphins.
Titans, are they legit? Yes or no for you, Mr. Steed?
See, this is where one thing weird for me is because, really, you could make a case for all these teams to be legit, but because they all could have 11 wins, but because I feel like you have to choose one of the two between the Titans and the Colts to be legit, and I just think the Titans. For me, I don't think they're legit. I don't think this team can win the AFC. And I like their offense and Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, but that defense is just so questionable for me. And if it came down to a playoff game against one of these better offenses, like a Bills, a Chiefs, or a team like that, even a Browns, and we've seen them play a couple of these teams, it'd be a shootout. You would have to win that game doing a shootout because I don't have any faith in your defense of stopping those teams. And I think at the end of the day, those teams just have better players on their offense truly at the end of the day that they would win that shootout. So just if the Titans had a decent defense in my mind, it's just you don't know when they're going to give up 40. So I'm going to say the Titans are not legit. And they're just they're borderline for me because I chose between them and the Colts, and I think I'm going to ride with the Colts.
I'm going to agree with you there. I'm going to say the Titans are not legit, not because I think that they can't win a shootout. I just think their defense isn't good enough. And until they prove to me that defense can either A, create enough turnovers where it helps out their offense in terms of just point differential with the points that they are going to give up, or B, start figuring things out really quickly towards the end of the season, I just don't think they have a good enough defense for me to believe in them to win the AFC. I think they can win playoff games, but it would take a whole lot for this team to win the AFC. It's not impossible. Like you said, all these teams are good football teams. But the other problem I have with the Titans is just that history is working against them a little bit. Generally speaking, teams with that top tier running attack do struggle in the playoffs, especially because when you're a playoff team, you generally speaking have some good pieces on your defense and a physical enough defense to compete with a team that can run the football. Not saying that that's always going to happen, and there are good running teams that always do well in the playoffs. Look at the 49ers last year. They were a run-first team, but they had a top tier defense. The Titans have a top 5 offense in the NFL. Whether you believe that or not, Derrick Henry is a workhorse. He's a stud. Ryan Tannehill is playing at an elite level. I'd rather have Ryan Tannehill than a whole lot of other quarterbacks in the league right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And people need to start really realizing that Ryan Tannehill, you can make a case, is having a top 5 quarterback season in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. Whether you like it or not. There's only, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and like those are really the only quarterbacks. Maybe
Josh
even
Allen.
Josh Allen. I'll give you Josh, but even has been struggling recently.
Yeah, he has.
Ryan Tannehill has been absolutely consistent the entire year and is giving you a great games day in and day out. So I do believe in their offense, and I think you're right. Like, they are close. And at the end of the day, I think I trust the Titans more than I do the Ravens because at least I have some consistency out of the Titans. And if they're a team that gets hot like they did last year, I mean, they gave the Chiefs a good run for their money. So I think the Titans are not legit, but it's solely because their defense. If their defense figures things out, which they easily could, then they're legit. And then I'm really scared of this Titans football team. But because they have history working against them with the fact that when you're the team with the best running back in the playoffs recently, you just haven't done well. And the fact of the matter is that if you're going to have a team built like that, you need a good defense, which they don't. It's just a little bit of too much stuff working against them. Now, with the Colts, I do agree with you because I do believe the Colts are legit. I picked them in the beginning of the season to win the Super Bowl, actually. The Colts just have a little bit of everything. Their offensive line is good. Phillip Rivers has been playing much better than in the beginning of the season. He's been legit. They're finally starting to get some good receiver play with T.Y. Hilton finally playing well and guys like Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal really jumping onto the scene. They have a plethora of good running backs, mainly Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, but Jordan Wilkins can at least play.
He can play.
And their defense has good players on every level. Their linebackers are some of the best linebackers in the league. Their defensive line is probably one of the more underrated groups in the NFL, and they have great secondary pieces. So I just think that the Colts are just a complete enough football team that if they're a team that gets hot, they can tangle with anyone.
I agree. I think the Colts are legit too. And the thing about the Colts, first of all, is like, are they going to get in? You know, we talked about it a little earlier. They're on that bridge of like where if you're the Colts, you're cheering for like whoever the Ravens are played for an upset, or you're cheering for a team to beat the Dolphins. But I do like the Colts because if the Colts get in, reason why I like the Colts is because they have a really great defense. All right. They'll be able to, because of their defense, they'll be in every game. Phillip Rivers, even though he hasn't had playoff success extremely in his career, has played in the playoffs and, he's played. So he has the experience. But I also like it because Jonathan Taylor's getting going at the right time. And I think if they get into the playoffs, Jonathan Taylor, a couple years ago when the Patriots got in the playoffs, old quarterback, good defense, rookie running back, and Sony Michel was able to have some really big games that really helped this Patriots team exceed into the playoffs, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. I see that out of Jonathan Taylor. I see that he can really take a load off Phillip Rivers and rush for a couple 100-yard games and make it easier. And plus Nyheim Hines, it's just it's a little bit like Austin Eckler, just that little receiving little back that's always open somehow. And they got really good weapons. They got the short end of the stick by playing the Steelers this weekend. This is a big win. If you win this game, you're in pretty much for the Colts. That's what you got to think about it at the end of the day for them. But for those reasons, that's why I like Colts. And I think that's why if they don't win the division, they would have to get some things to go their way. I mean, if the Titans lose to the Packers and they went out, they would win the division. But if they get in, they're a wild card team. I think out of any team in the NFL, that would be the scariest wild card team, and I would not want to play them.
All right, let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. Steed, do you believe that actually, I'm going to start this one. I do not believe that the Miami Dolphins are legit. I think that they just have too many holes on the off ball. I do like what I've seen out of Tua, but you can only really trust a rookie quarterback in the playoffs against these top tier teams so much. Their defense can definitely win them football games, but you just look at their skill players right now. It's honestly just a bunch of randos. I mean, you can make an argument that the Bengals have better skill players than them. That the Dolphins' skill players are, aside from the tight end position, are comparable to the Jets, which is just, they have a quarterback, they have good tight end play, their offensive line is very underrated, playing really. They have a defense that scores points and creates turnovers for you, but they need help on that side of the football. And it's shown in the fact that they don't really score a ton of points in any football game. And if they do, it's because their defense got a bunch of turnovers or scored points for them. So without that, in an AFC where you have some loaded offenses, I just struggle to see how you could believe that this team could come out and win the AFC.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I don't think they win the AFC. First of all, this is going to be like one of the things where like when people pick games like before, like on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, and they just heavy favorite one team, and then the other team goes out there and wins it, and then you see like a meme the next day. It's like, like, or like right before the game, should I like heavy bet like the Bengals this game? But like, yeah, I agree with you though. Like, I just think the Dolphins, great story, and they're on the uptrend from where they were literally a year ago, from people saying they were the worst team in football history to now they're contending for the 7th seed in the AFC this year. But I just don't think this team's going to make the playoffs. Honestly, at the end of the day, I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs. I truly believe I see an upset coming this weekend with the Raiders, and is right. It's their offense doesn't do enough for me, and like to a point, like you can't rely on your defense to give you free points. And Devontae Parker just hasn't been there. It's just out of a team like between the Dolphins and the Ravens, where like the Dolphins could get in over the Ravens if they win the next 2 games and all that, is like if the Ravens get booted out, like I'm not going to sit here and say the Ravens don't deserve the Dolphins don't deserve the playoffs, because they won the games that they were supposed to, and they won it fair and square. But like for a better playoff better playoff game, like I just feel like the Ravens would put up a better test against teams than the Dolphins would.
One thing I will say is that I don't think that the Dolphins can't win playoff games. It's not impossible. It's just they need their defense to keep doing what they've been doing and get turnovers. And Brian Flores needs to be coach of the year level Brian Flores for this team to win. I think they can win. It's just going to be tough because if there's an offense like the Colts or the Chiefs or the Titans or even the Bills that they have to play against, I think the Bills is a much more favorable matchup. But regardless, if you're playing up against a team like the Titans, I think that's just a bad matchup for the Dolphins, because I think that if anything's been proven against the Dolphins is that the one way that you can beat them is just by being more physical than their defense. Don't have to rely on throwing the football. I think you saw that in the Broncos game, and that the Broncos just lined up and said, hey, we're just going to smash the ball down your throat with our running attack and not have to worry about our quarterback having to throw against 0 blitzes and your stud secondary. I do think they can win a playoff game, though. Their defense, the Dolphins can win any game because their defense is that good. It's just how many games can they win in a row? Because that's what you have to do in the playoffs. You have to win games in a row, and you have to play top tier teams week after week after week. I think the Dolphins can win, but I don't think that they can win 3 games against top-tier teams in a row, especially if they have different things that they're all good at, and they play a team like the Titans or maybe even the Colts that can match their physicality.
Yeah, listen, I don't think they can. I don't think they'll win a playoff game if they get in. Truly, and why is because more likely they would get that 7 seed, and they play the Bills. And I think the Bills would beat them, like just straight up, just beat them.
I like the Dolphins matchup against the Bills, though.
I think it would be like one of those scenarios where just like at the end of the day, like, yeah, I understand like their defense is very legit and they're good, but like I don't know like what I'm gonna get out of Tua. Like I know Tua's played in big time games, but like if you have to travel to Buffalo and it's cold, and you get popped once, like I just think that's a game that could get a little out of hand. Then speaking of, if they do have to play Buffalo, then they play in Buffalo for back-to-back weeks. They play week 17, and then they would play them in the first round of the playoffs. That's pretty crazy.
I'm just saying, do not. The reason I like them against Buffalo really quickly, because we'll go into Buffalo next. I think we're both going to say that Buffalo's legit. Is that the one way I think I can beat Buffalo is by getting pressure on Josh Allen and forcing him to make mistakes. And I think that the Dolphins are, of all these defenses in the AFC, one of the best teams that could put Josh Allen under pressure and force him to turn the ball over. So that's why I do think, not that the Dolphins are going to be favored, but at the end of the day, I think that the Dolphins are going to make that way more of a football game than people think. I mean, they played them really close in week 2, and the Dolphins defense has come on way better than in the beginning of the season. So that's why I like the Buffalo matchup. Let's get into Buffalo really quickly because the segment is running a tad long. I think Buffalo's legit. They have a quarterback. Their offensive line is great. Their coaching is great. They have great receivers. Defense is starting to play better. So I think that everyone thinks that the Bills have a shot this year. And they get a home playoff game, it looks like.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like the Bills a lot. As Chiefs are the favorite, but I think the Bills could take down the Chiefs if it came down to that. Like you said, they got the quarterback, they got the coach. I think their defense is starting to turn it around now, and we're starting to see what we thought they would be at all year. But their offense is very legit. They can hang up a crooked number in you any given moment. They can put 40 on you. And, at the end of the day, we talk about like Super Bowl teams making a run. You got MVP candidate right there in Josh Allen. That's huge. And then you got your defense playing well, and you're hot. So you already clinched the division. So like I really like the Bills coming in. And now they still got to get the 2 seed. They're at the 3 seed right now, but they hold the tiebreaker over the Steelers. But I like their games to win out if they have to play for the 2 seed on week 17, But yeah, I like this Bills team a lot. I really do.
Yeah, I know you liked the Bills a lot coming into the season. I know a lot of people like the Bills, but I know that you thought right from the beginning of the season, this Bills team is winning the division and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So I figured that you would be picking the Bills. But with that being said, let's get into the Week 16 picks. Steed, let's start with your dog of the week this week.
My dog of the week. I think I said it. Let me pull up the line real quick, but I was hinting at it. Golly, my Wi-Fi sucks.
Also, nice pick with the Bears as your dog of the week last week. Nice.
They're fighting.
Red End money line.
They're fighting. So my dog of the week this week is going to be our team. I'm going to take the Raiders. This is on Saturday night, 8:15. I know what we just said about the Dolphins. I still don't think the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs, and this is the reason why. I like Raiders +3, +135. Yeah, like the Raiders are still technically in it, aren't they?
They'd need a whole lot to go their way, I'm pretty.
All right, so they're just going to play spoiler here. Like, they're going to still believe they can win this game. Now, it's a tough game for them because isn't Derek Carr still out?
Yes, I believe so.
But I like the way
playing on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I liked how Mariota played in the Thursday night game. And, he's gotten over a week of preparation now too. And their defense is their defense. But, like, maybe they can find a couple, like, holes with Tua or something like that. But I'm not – it just, like, I have a team upset. I think the Raiders are still capable of beating a lot of good teams in this league, and I like them this week.
All right, so for my dog of the week, I'm going to be taking the Panthers money line over Washington football team. You're going to get a banged up Alex Smith that's playing because I doubt that they send Haskins out. A whole strip club situation with Haskins. I mean, I think Ron Rivera would rather go the Broncos route of not playing a quarterback than to play Haskins at this point. So I think they're going to be sending out a banged up Alex Smith. You got a shot of Christian McCaffrey returning this week. And at the end of the day, this is a Panthers team that has lost so many one-score games. I think they finally get a matchup that they can get that win that they've been fighting for. And I think that this week it does happen for the Panthers. So I'm going to be taking them as my dog of the week over the Washington football team, who I think has a great chance to choke the division in the NFC East.
Yeah, they really like that NFC East is just getting messier and messier. But my next pick, I'm gonna be riding with the boys, dude. The Falcons plus 10.5 against the Chiefs. I know the Falcons are the Falcons, man, but at the end of the day, I still like the Chiefs. To me, like the last couple weeks, like they're just not. I mean, they're still winning so many games, but like it's just they're putting up 30 points. Like them because that game even before really happens a lot for Falcons. I'll ride it.
Yeah, that is one thing I will say is that the Chiefs have been winning, but they have been winning a lot of close games. I mean, if you look at we can just count their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 games have been one-score games with their 2 blowout wins. Their 2-score wins have been against the Jets, against the Broncos, who they historically blow out almost every week. And then the Broncos came back a couple of weeks later, more recently, and only lost by 6 points. They beat the Bills by 9. And then they beat the Ravens by 2 scores and the Patriots by 2 scores. But we all knew that Patriots game was a lot closer than it actually was. So really, in this second half of the season, they haven't been blowing anyone out. It's been a bunch of close games. They have been winning those games because, surprise, surprise, the Chiefs are good. But I think you're right in the fact that the Chiefs may be getting too many points here because they've just been playing a whole lot of close games. And they're a team that starts off fast, but has been letting teams kind of creep back into football games towards the end. We saw that with the Buccaneers, and we saw that with the Saints. So I actually do like that pick. I'm not going to be in general, I kind of like a lot of the dogs this week. The dog spreads.
Yeah.
I'm going to be taking the Giants plus 11 against the Ravens. This may be a bait, but I just like the fact that the Giants seem to play everyone tough, and I think this is just too many points. The Ravens have had an easy schedule, but the Giants, they should be getting back Daniel Jones this week. I don't really know the status of Bradbury. I think they get him back this week, though, right?
I'm not too sure.
I'm not sure. If they don't get him back, I'm less confident in this pick, but I'll take 11 points for a Giants team that I think is pretty well coached. I just think it's a little bit too many points for the Giants. They got a good front seven.
Yeah. My next pick, I'm gonna be riding with the Broncos plus 3.5. I know the Chargers are like now they're starting to kind of play decent ball, kind of like maybe they save Anthony Lynn's job after we put him on blast, win the last 2 games. And I know Herbert's on fire and all that, but I still think this like Broncos are one of the better teams against the spread all year. And I give me the points, man. Like I think this is going to be a close game with and without, and really kind of like the Broncos with an upset here. Maybe I should have took them in my dog week, but no, I'm going to ride Broncos 3.5.
Yeah, you're right. The Broncos have been kind of a spoiler to the spread a whole lot of weeks. They're inconsistent, but I do think that Vic Fangio does a good job with that defense and getting that football team to prepare for games. My next pick, I'm going to be taking the 49ers +5. You know, not a huge fan. I wish I got another point, but at the end of the day, the last matchup was close. Yeah, the 49ers are banged up, but Kittle could be back this week.
Huge.
The Cardinals have been kind of shaky the past couple weeks. They've been a team that has not been playing incredibly good football, but they've been kind of just coming out on top in some of these games. I just think that the 49ers are a better coach team than a team like the Eagles, and that this game could be closer than people think. I'm not a huge fan because the 49ers could easily lose by 10, 7 points, but 5 points for a divisional matchup that historically has been pretty close, I'll take it.
All right. I'm going to ride with the little rivalry right here. Eagles versus Cowboys. I'm going to take Eagles -2. I understand the Cowboys have been playing better ball of late, but like at the end of the day, I still think the Eagles are like, they're fighting for something, and maybe Jalen Hurts has some success against this defense. This is always like a close game. It's one of the better rivalries in the NFL, but I'll ride the Eagles this time. Give me the 2 points.
All right, my next pick, I'm going to take a teaser, a 6-point teaser. I'm going to be taking the Rams +7.5 against the Seahawks, as well as the Panthers +8.5 against the football team. Just a classic little Wong teaser here. If you don't know what a Wong teaser is, it's not sexual. It's just this guy, his last name is Wong. He made a teaser, and they're pretty good. So check those out if you're interested. But yeah, just taking that Wong teaser, getting some dogs that I like this week up to 2 scores. So I'll take that and run.
Nice. Dude, I'm going to do this strictly because I don't like the Packers. And I'm taking Titans +3. Sunday night, Titans +3. Give it to me. Like we said, like we were both saying the Titans are not legit. I mean, when we do NFC next week, I'll give you a little foreshadowing. I'm going to pick the Packers are not legit. And
Who saw that coming?
I'm going to pick the 1 seed at the NFC is not a legit to win the NFC. But yeah, give me the Titans +3 here. I like the money. I'll ride with that. Tannehill, like you said, top 5 quarterback this year, honestly, if you want to get down to it. Battle of the top 5 quarterbacks this year.
Yeah. I'm gonna take my boys this week. I'll take the dogs. I wish I brought up the figure before the episode, to be completely honest, but man, you don't see the Steelers as a home dog too often, especially an 11-3 Steelers team as a home dog. So I just think that the value is really good here. I get 2 points. So I will take 2 points at a home Steelers game around December. Big game. Tomlin, I think, is going to get the boys to play. Juju should be done with the damn TikToks. So let's stop TikToking and start winning again. Give me Steelers +2.
Tomlin did say he'll talk to Juju about the TikToks and the dancing on the field.
What is up with Steelers receivers and doing this stupid bullshit? Like, I love Juju too, but can we chill with the bullshit? Dancing on people's logos all the time? I'm fine with it after a touchdown, but when we lost 2 straight games, chill with the freaking TikToks.
Well, he probably just thought the Bengals were a lock, so he's like, all right, I'll make a quick TikTok, get a couple million likes.
It's just to start putting a target on your back, You
that's what I was
that
saying.
team
Like,
completely fired up to play that game because you danced on their freaking logo.
yeah, I mean, if I'm a coach, I would have shut that shit down first time he did it. It doesn't matter if we're 16-0 or 5-11. You know, like I'm not doing that. You're just giving the team an extra like motive.
Yeah.
My next pick. We're about to see if we already know they're legit, but like, Bills -7. If you blow out the Patriots, you beat the Patriots by more than 7, you should have almost everybody convinced in the world that you can win the Super Bowl. So I think, and I've already said they can. So I'm going to ride with it. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Bills -7 Monday Night Football. Give it to me.
I'm going to be taking the Rams +1.5. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be a close football game, so I will take points. And I think it could be really similar to their last matchup where Russell Wilson continues to struggle a little bit. Their running attack is not as good as it was earlier in the season. I just kind of like the value here. I think I'd rather do Rams money line, but I'll take 1.5 in a really close football game. I just think that there's not going to be as many points as people think this football game. These are two struggling offenses going head to head. So I'll take what I believe is the better defense.
All right. I like that, especially like I think a lot of people are going to be on the Seahawks after, the Rams lost to the Jets.
I think that was just a trap game, though. I'm not going to hold that too much against them. Dude, to be completely honest, like, the Seahawks and the Jets defense, this is going to sound ridiculous, but the Seahawks defense is basically just the Jets defense with a couple star players.
Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner,
and Dunlap. Like, it's basically just the Jets defense, but they have a couple really good players. That's what the Seahawks defense feels like to me.
I will say, like, I'll take any corner on the Jets. Give me any corner on the practice squad of the Jets over Trey Flowers.
Lamar Jackson. Get the real Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, give me Lamar Jackson, dude. God, like, I just think Trey Flowers is just such a bomb. Like, if he was on my team, like, I think I'd rather have Isaiah Oliver over Trey Flowers. That's how much I think.
That's a lot coming from you.
I know, and I crap on Isaiah Oliver all the time when he's just on the field. I'm like, there he goes, man. He's just horrible. But I just think Trey Flowers is god awful. I want to make one more pick, dude, but I want to do where like I fade you on one, but I don't want to take Seahawks and I don't want to take the Colts because I don't want to take the Steelers because
I got one more, so you can fade me on this one if you want. I'm going to be taking the Bucs -9.5 against the Detroit Lions.
I was kind of thinking like to take the Lions too, so this works out perfect. Yeah, give me the Lions 9.5. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that this Lions football cooked. I don't know why. I just wanted to fade the Lions. It was a stupid pick. I really regret it because it put me.
Well, they covered a week ago.
500 last week, which stinks because the Chiefs didn't cover. Just letting teams back in the game. The Chiefs not covering that -3. So give me the Bucs. The Bucs, I feel like all year have been a team that they're able to beat up on weaker opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Lions defense is just, it feels like they're in shambles. They let up 46 points to the Titans. Titans were able to do anything they wanted. I think it's this week with the Bucs. I feel like Tom Brady and that Bucs offense is basically going to be able to do whatever they want. And yeah, the Lions can cover if they're able to put up 30 points, but I'm not sure the Lions are going to be able to put up 30 points.
Who knows? It's 9.5 though. Like, I know they didn't cover.
I don't know. I just feel like the Bucs are going to 42 points. So, like, go ahead.
Really?
Go ahead. Lions, if you can score 32 points, take my pick. Take my money.
Not true. Yeah, ride with it.
But that's all my picks for this week. You done with your picks? You want to take any more?
Yeah. Dude, I'm looking at my picks now. I chose all underdogs besides One pick, and that was the Bills -7. Week
Same for
16
me,
is
dude.
dog.
I told
dog
you,
week.
I like a lot of the dogs this week. I feel like this is dog week. Everyone's on the favorites for the most part. I feel like this is a spoiler week, man. I think the dogs are legit this week. Hopefully
Well,
they
yeah.
are, because we took basically all dog. We basically have the whole board of dogs.
Yeah, this could
aside
go
from, like, the Bengals.
very wrong. This could either go very right or very wrong, because like when you fall into these week 16, week 17 games, is like, the underdogs are just like, because you have the teams fighting for the playoff spot, like just trying to get in. They'll play some crappy team, and that crappy team will come out and just beat them. It's just like, dude, why are you doing that, bro? But like, I like it. Let's go, dogs, baby.
Yeah, dude, I've been waiting for a dog week. Week 16 is dog week.
Yeah.
Welcome to dog week.
Almost
Week 16. But if you made it this far in the episode, thank you so much for watching. We are going to end it here. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell so you know when all the videos and the YouTube videos and whatnot come out. Next week, I think we're going to start getting into draft content. So if you want to see some draft content, then you have to hit the subscribe button, or else you're not going to see it immediately when it comes out. But once again, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening, and peace out.